So, Michelle,
Yeah.
um, I like that this is the 71st time we've sat down to do this,
Hmm.
and it's still just as exciting as the first time because after 71 times with the exact same setup, we had like a massive issue with like ground loop or something
Hmm.
where
Yeah.
Henrique was giving us a ton of hum, which is just great because that's like never happened before that we couldn't even we couldn't even troubleshoot it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because last week it was like unplugged it and plugged it into a different thing and then it was fixed. And this time you did it and it was like, nope.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, I mean, you can't say that the excitement is dead. You can't say that the spark
Mhm.
is gone because it's still exciting because what can go wrong does go wrong.
Yep.
Um, so, but I've done a lot of things in my life, you know, a lot. I mean, like I've had a lot of moments where it's been like, wow, this is the 70th time I did something or 100th time I did something.
Hmm.
And it still blows my mind every time I kind of see a number and I go, whoa, like this is the 71st podcast or whoa, this is the uh, podcast of the thing I count the most. So that's
Makes
probably going to be the
sense.
best
Yeah.
example I have. But but yeah, or like YouTube videos, like they're ridiculous. My YouTube channel has something outrageous like multiple hundreds of videos. So I don't even have a count. That's how just too many there are. I really don't know.
Wow.
I'm like, how many videos do I have? And it's like, oh yeah, it doesn't work that way, so it won't tell me.
Oh, that's too bad.
Oh, you know what? Okay, this is even weirder. It says I have a okay, that's
A
not helpful.
billion?
It was gonna say I have about 119, but then when I hit next, it says about 160. Now it says about 190. Now it says
Hmm.
about 220. So it's not giving me a full count. It's
Weird.
yeah. So it's over 300 for sure. Now it's saying it's over 370. Why can't
That's
it just
weird.
be like, here's how many videos you've done? Good job.
Yeah.
No. So I guess I'll just have to never know. Because now it's saying over 550, over 580. Oh, I think I reached the end.
Yeah.
Or it just froze.
Oh.
Either
I
is
was
a good
gonna
answer.
say you could just count them, like all of
Live
them.
on the show. That would be a good way to
Yeah.
pass the the runtime of the episode, I suppose.
Hmm.
Oh god, now it's saying 610. Now it's saying 640.
You can count them, and I'll cheer every time you say.
Okay. I have the final count.
Oh yeah.
Um well, not final. It says about 650.
Okay.
It's weird that it doesn't know exactly how much, but
Maybe it only goes in tens, so it can't give you like 652 or
yeah, it's
something.
weird. It's weird. I'm sure there's probably a better way to find out how many videos I've published, but I don't see it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So, yeah. Anyway, but I don't actively count my YouTube videos. I just kind of post them. So, but I don't know. So I was just thinking about that. I mean, are you surprised we've actually done 71 of these, or are you just like, of course we have, because I have no control over my life, you know?
It well, yeah, but also, yeah, I'm a little surprised, I guess. Because I don't tend to think about how many, and that seems like a lot. But if you think about like years and things, I guess it makes sense.
I mean, it's the exact amount of weeks that we've been doing it.
Mm-hmm.
so
Yeah.
so I guess in
Yeah.
that way the math adds up.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm still surprised I fooled you into doing this with me. I still sometimes think about, I'm like, wow, I got Michelle to do that. As she doesn't say anything to the contrary.
No, I was just thinking about like um I don't remember. It doesn't
What
matter.
were you
No,
thinking
you
about?
you didn't. No, how about this? You didn't fool me into it. I wanted to do it.
Oh, is that what you're going with now?
Yeah.
Your
Yeah,
Your
sure.
Honor. Um yeah, so I'm having not a great brain day.
I'm sorry.
It's okay. A good, ironically, very different from normal. I'm having a good mood day, but not a very good brain day.
Mm-hmm.
Which, and I wasn't even fully aware of that until I was like, oh, hey, you already added yourself to Zoom. And you were like, no, you sent me the link. And I was like, no, I did. There, yeah, I did. And then I was like, okay, great. Cause this is the first time I've interacted with a person today. It's like,
Oh yeah, so
it's
you
like
didn't
1 p.m. or something.
realize.
Yeah, that happens. It happens.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, so I don't know. I don't, I usually always come up with some wild cockamamie idea right before I hit record. Today, not so much. I hate doing that because my number one pet peeve of
Mm-hmm.
like live content in particular is when they just go live and they go, well, I mean, yeah, it's live, so what can we
Yeah.
do? And
Yeah.
that's the worst because um this, I mean, obviously is not live to anybody other than us.
Mm-hmm.
We're the only ones witnessing it as it happens. But I actually started out working, I mean, when I was very, very, very young child, the first television thing I ever worked on was live.
Cool.
It was live television. It cable casted to at the time the Time Warner uh, uh, cable system, which was after Continental Cablevision got bought by Time Warner. Then we became on Time Warner. But I just remember doing live TV a lot, and it honestly might be one of the reasons that like I handle high pressure really well. Because
Maybe.
I mean, literally, I took the classes to know how to operate like the equipment in the studio, and then they were like, okay, you should go do your first show. And my first show that wasn't just a show done for training was live on television.
Wow.
So
Wow.
and it's high pressure. Live is
Mm-hmm.
is very high pressure, and I've just never. I guess because I started so young, I've just never felt that pressure very much.
Mm-hmm.
A large portion of last year, I was doing a live stream every Wednesday night. And I mean, I felt there's pressure, like, oh God, I gotta, do this and this. And the funny thing is, like, even though it's this new world, live streaming is a whole new thing. It's still new.
Yeah, I guess.
The idea that like, oh, I'll just go live on any number of apps and just hang
Mm-hmm.
out with people is not even 5 years old
Yeah.
as like a ubiquitous thing. It was a novelty. It was a special feature. Like you would be on Periscope if you wanted to go live to hang out with people. You
Mm-hmm.
didn't just have Facebook and be like, okay, I'll also use the live feature. Or you're on Instagram,
Yeah.
and you're like, I'll also use the live feature. It
Mm-hmm.
used to be a big deal. And it's funny because when I would start going live, I would feel the pressures that I was taught as a kid in broadcasting of like, there can never be dead air. You have to keep talking, you have to keep engaging. And in reality, if you watch like the most successful live streams, it's like a person sitting there and they're like, all right, all the potatoes 666 says, why don't you play Zelda or something? You seem depressed. I guess I could fire up Zelda. Oh, there's a racial slur. Oh, there's another racial slur. But that's the way that it's done now.
Mm-hmm.
It's because it's so deeply interactive.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
Yeah.
when I was doing live TV all the time, the level of interactive was we would put a phone number on the screen and people could call in and they would get a person who would ask them for their name and what they wanted to talk about.
Mm-hmm.
And assuming it didn't seem like it was obviously a prank caller, they would then put them on hold and then they would radio the director in the control room on their headset and tell the director, Tom on line 2 wants to talk about, potatoes. I'm going with potatoes today. I'm going all
I
in.
guess.
Wants to talk about that. And then nobody, you see, you think that you're done. No, it keeps going. So then the director radios the floor director and tells them that information. And then the floor director writes it on a like a whiteboard.
Mm-hmm.
so that the host can be like, can finish their thought and be like, okay, on line 2, we have a gentleman wants to talk about potatoes. Please go ahead, sir. And then, and then of course, immediately he'd go, yeah. And then it would go, like, please turn your television set down. Yeah. And that was, and that was what it was like. And we're not talking, I mean, we're talking about a long time ago, but we're also not talking about that long ago. We're talking about post 2000. This is not the 90s. This is 2003, 2004. And, but yeah, so I cut my teeth on live television, doing camera on live television, doing floor direction on live television, and then performing on live television as I got a little bit older. Because we went from this show called Opening Night Theater, which was a live improv comedy show, which was the entire reason that I got involved with television, is that I saw that show on cable access, and it was live, and they gave you a phone number. So of course, because for some weird messed up reason in my brain, I'm like the opposite of nearly everybody. My first instinct when I see a phone number on television is to call it, as opposed to like where I think that most reasonable people will be like, I don't want to call it show. And what if I say something dumb? I'm like, oh boy, I'm going to say something dumb. Beep, 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 So, but I called in because they would do things like, okay, we need a location and occupation for this skit. And then they'd be like, okay, line, and then they'd be like, okay, Henrique, you're on line 1. I'd be like, oh yeah, I think for a location, could it be a potato factory? And for a occupation, a potato. And then they and then they would do the scene, with the suggestions of the people on the phone. And that show was hosted by Andy Kopp. He just happened to be hosting the show as well as being one of the main community coordinators. And because of the way they do cable access, especially when you're live, there's no commercials. There's no commercials on cable access. It's all nonprofit. So if you need a break, like if you need 2 minutes, for everybody to catch their breath and get some water before you keep doing the show or whatever, what do? You show either pre-taped content, which requires you to work even more, or you show public service announcements that the state of Ohio and the United States government has sent in. And they're usually like anti-smoking PSAs, or, they're just whatever's cheesy, where it's like the cartoon cat shows up and says, hey kids, if someone rapes someone, you tell a cat, that's what you Bixby, the anti-rape cat. You remember Bixby, right?
Oh, totally. Yeah.
Did Bixby visit your high school?
No, but we weren't in it was regional. So I just know people who know.
Yeah, it sounds like the kind of thing the Midwest would get and that the East Coast would not get. It's like, you guys didn't have Bixby, the anti-rape cat? You're like, no, we didn't. It's like, so
we were just not raping people. I don't know.
Or they were raping too many people. The cat was like, I can't help. I don't know why Bixby has that voice. But no, so we would show PSAs, but not all the PSAs were sourced from all over the country or from, the federal government or whatever. Some of the PSAs were for the channel itself because, the way cable access survives is lots of volunteers. Volunteers who pay not much money to use the service, but by using the service, it shows the local and municipal governments that it's worth continuing to fund, the more membership you have. So I saw this thing that was like, the Miami Valley Cable Council. Do you want to make your own show? Take a class today, dial this number. And I was like, so the next day I wrote the number down, and the next day I called the number and I was like, do you guys have, I was 12. I was literally 12 years old. And I was like, do you guys have an age limit? And they were like, no, we don't. And I was like, okay. And I hung up, and then I called my mom at work and I was like, no, this place let me take classes. I can make a TV show. And mom was like, okay. So I took a 4-week, once a week. I just heard a car peel out.
I kind of heard it too. It didn't sound like anything in particular. It just was a sound.
It wasn't super loud. But no, so my mother took me to the 4 classes in 4 weeks. And then I started volunteering at the cable place, because you could have your own shows, but they would also have like a bulletin board of people who are making shows who need like help. So a lot of times what you would do is you would literally show up to this community access show and not know what you were going to do. So you'd get there, and then like the show guy, or girl, whoever was running the show, would just be like, hey, yeah, you've run camera before? And I'd be like, yeah. And he'd be like, okay, is camera cool with you? And you'd be like, sure, I'll run camera. I'd be like, okay, you do camera 1, you do camera 2, you do camera 3. Are you cool being the floor director? And and every now and then you have somebody say like, I actually haven't done it yet, and they'd be like, you probably don't want to learn on a live show, so let's how about you come in the work in the back with me? I'll show you how to do technical directing. It was stuff like that. And it was really fun because you would want to get as much experience as you could, but sometimes you just had no idea what the show was like. So you would show up, and then you'd be like, oh God, because you would see like, you would show up and there'd be a lectern set up, and there'd be like a really sweaty pastor at the lectern, and you'd be like, this is going to be a long 2 hours of listening to this guy talk about Jeebus and such, but that's the other thing, is community access is a lot of religious programming.
That makes sense.
More than 50% religious programming,
Wow.
generally speaking. When I worked as a employee years and years later in community access television, at that point, I mean, we had a channel just for religious programming, because it glutted up the regular programming channel so much. It was like, why not we just bought another channel so they could be on it. So, and by bought, I mean, I think we just negotiated a contract, because the way it works here, I can't speak for the rest of the country, is cable access is financed by franchise fees, which are actually technically paid by the cable company. The cable company pays it, but the customers of the cable company actually are who pay the franchise fees.
Sure, sort of.
Yeah. So but what happens is, but that being said, it's like $4 a month or something. It's very low. But the reason that agreement was made out here, again, I don't know how it is everywhere else, but the reason the agreement was made here was, the idea was that was basically their way of paying for using infrastructure of the city and the areas that they service. The way they had to pay for the infrastructures is like, well, you need to finance a free speech option on the cable. That was their idea. Because cable casting is much, much cheaper than broadcasting. You don't need a giant antenna with a massive transformer broadcasting with tons of powerful voltage and amperage to, you just need a little wire that goes to the cable station, which when I worked at a cable access station, we were literally across the street from the cable station, like the cable company. We were literally across the street, because our internet went down once, and I was like, should I just walk over there? Because like, they're right there. like, should I just go over there and say like, guys, our internet's not working? Like, because that's who the problem is from. Yeah. So, but yeah, so my point is, so I'd work on live shows, and they put a lot of pressure, on you, but you get used to it really fast. You just kind of go, all right, and you just do it. And then when I was 16, some friends started doing a live talk show, and slowly but surely I ended up being a regular part of it. So then I was a talent all the time on live shows. And I just kind of got used to it. I just kind of was like, I remember when I was doing my old ancient podcast, the one you were on once, way back a million years ago. I remember I used to do live episodes sometimes where, the podcast feed was a recording of the live stream I'd done. And that was back when there was like 2 sites that let you do live broadcasting. There was Ustream and Justin TV. And that was it. And they were both not very good. And it was like, but what's funny is like, people complain about, lots of people complain about when they do live things. They're like, I wish I had more interaction. I wish, like, there are 80 people listening. Why aren't more people commenting? Why aren't more people saying stuff? And I was like, well, in the olden days, we didn't have that problem, because the feed was full of people. I can't hear you. I can't see you. It stopped working. Where are you? Is the show on? So we would always have plenty of interaction. But unfortunately, unlike the cable access days, we didn't have as many serial pranksters. On cable access, oh my God, there were people who like made it their mission to prank call our shows. And they were pretty good at getting through too. So
good for them.
Yeah, they'd mostly say like Howard Stern stuff, because that was what was the thing at the time. They'd call in and go, Baba Booey, Baba Booey. Don't sigh. This is your culture. This is East Coast culture. You have to appreciate it. This is where you're from.
No.
Don't forget your roots.
No.
But so I mean, I've been talking a lot about like this massive amount of involvement in live I've done. But I mean, you've done some live stuff, right? I mean,
I guess.
other than just on stage, which is a whole other beast. You've done a lot of that. But like you've been
Yeah.
on like, live radio and stuff.
Yeah, like once or twice, like a
Yeah.
couple of times. Yeah.
How did it feel though? Did you feel
Like
more
I
pressure or was it the same?
no, it's all the same. It's all the same because it's like it's still even when something is being recorded like this,
Mhm.
unless something really really bad happens, we're just gonna keep it. Like something really bad,
Yeah.
like I just start vomiting blood or something,
I think that
maybe.
I don't know that I would cut away. I think that would be that's
Yeah.
content right there.
But what if I like vomit blood and then I die?
I mean, well,
What if
you're
the
putting me in a
ambulance
hard
has to
spot because
come?
you're saying like so we would stop the show, but that suggests that then we would start it back up. But if you vomited blood and die, I mean that's the ultimate, finale. You know?
Um, I guess what if like I guess like if like I was the subject of a home invasion while we were doing this and then the cops were like you can't show that because that's evidence.
Oh well, then I
You
would
know?
absolutely show it.
Yeah, I
I would
know.
be like, "Hey world, the cops said not to do this." Post. And then they'd be like, "Why'd you say post?" And be like, "Oh, I'm sorry." And then I would show the video. No, I mean, because yeah, live. Well, that's the thing. Live is its own mentality. Like if you watch, not that anyone does anymore, really, but if you watch late night television, they all
Mhm,
pretend. Well, before pandemic, they all pretended they were live,
mhm.
but they weren't. Late night
Yeah.
TV has basically not been live in 20 some years, 30 years. It just started live very early on when most television was live, and they wanted to keep the format. Also, most late night shows pre-tape earlier that day, not
Yeah.
not earlier that week. So
Yeah.
the best thing possible is to run it like a live show so that basically when you're done, it's done and you send it off to broadcast everywhere.
Yeah.
Did you know that like in the olden days, it's so crazy. I'm sorry, I'm like trip down memory lane about TV, but in the olden days, if you had a like if you had a show, that
Mhm.
was supposed to air somewhere, and you needed to get it to people, you would transmit it via satellite
Oh,
to their satellite dish, which would go to their VCR, to their broadcast quality VCR, and then they would hit record, and then the tape would capture a broadcast,
wow.
and then they'd be like, "Okay, we've got our copy," and then they would use that to air.
Wow.
Sometimes they would literally be satellite feed too, but usually not because they had like local things they had to be able to intersperse in it. They'd have to add their commercials and stuff like that. But the timing would have to be so perfect because like literally when you would send out the show, it would have to have exactly 2.5 minutes of black where the commercials were, because they would literally punch the commercials into the actual tape. So there's no room for error.
Wow. Yeah.
Yeah. I only had to deal with stuff like that a little bit. Just a little bit. I didn't have to do a ton of that, but yeah, it was kind of crazy. And when I did I did a couple pilot episodes when I was 15 or 16 years old of a pro wrestling show.
Mhm.
Because of the way they did the show, I had to learn how to do that because the guy who was running the show, he was old school as hell. So he would say like, I need you to edit all the matches together. And I'd be like, okay, but we need the segments in the middle, in between matches where you guys are talking about like what's going on and all this stuff. And he'd be like, well, we'll get them later. I don't have time. Cause he would only be able to give up like once every 2 months to like actually come to the studio.
Mhm.
So what I had to do is I had to edit the show with exactly a minute and a half of black between the matches. And then he would
Wow.
come in, and he was a pro, but he'd learned how to be a professional from wrestling, how to be a
Mhm.
broadcaster. He was a pro. He would come in and and I'd be like, okay, so you got to hit exactly a minute and 30. And he'd be like, just put a countdown underneath the camera. Because there was a
Mhm.
little clock, and literally he would be like, "Hey everybody, I'm so and so from so and so wrestling, and we're talking about blah 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 blah." And he would always wrap up like exactly when the counter was ended. It was
Wow.
amazing to watch. It was like
Wow.
superhuman. And I mean, he was like 60 years old. He'd literally been doing this for 40 years.
Mhm.
Like, so it was like eating lunch to him. He was like, okay, and so we'll see you next time. And it would just end right at that moment. And I was like, how do you do that? That's so cool. Now, don't get me wrong. He messed up like maybe twice out of 8. He'd mess up like 2
Wow.
times. And all you
Wow.
had to do was hit record again. Because
Mhm.
the way it would work, not that this is at all interesting to anyone, I don't care. The way it would work is you would take the tape and you would put it in the record deck in the studio, and you would literally set an in point right when the black started and an out point right when the black ended, which would be
Mhm.
roughly a minute and a half, maybe a minute and 34 seconds, something like that. Very close to exact.
Mhm.
You set an in and an out point, and then instead of hitting assemble, which is just hitting record, assemble is like record, 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 you would hit audio video insert. And what that does is it sets the record heads to a different mode where it would let something just pop in without any interference or glitching or anything. It just pops in. Because
Okay.
in the olden days, like that's how you would do like cutaways and close-ups on video. You would just lay the whole main video, and then you would go around and find the spots where you want to lay in the next clip, and
Mhm.
you pop it in, and you decide if you don't want it to affect the audio and stuff like that. So
Mhm.
we would just do an audio video insert, and then you'd hit that, and then what would happen is literally would give you a countdown. So when it would go 5, 4, we would be speaking over the intercom. 5, 4, 3, and then they would do it just like Wayne's World. You don't say 2 or 1. So but yeah, and then he would just friggin' knock it out of the park. It was crazy. And then when we were done with like that hour and a half in the studio, we'd have like 3 or 4 episodes of the show just done
Cool.
because everything else was complete.
Mhm.
And the only part where they could goof off was the last segment, because that didn't matter, because there was no match afterward or anything, so they could talk
Yeah.
for 3 minutes. They could talk until they were done, and then
Mhm.
and then I would put the credits in. So but I just remember my mind being blown. I just could not believe that this guy could just like hit that perfectly.
Yeah.
So I want to be like that when I grow up.
Yeah, I bet there's like a method, like once you get to like 10 seconds before you have to stop, you have to start like wrapping up, and then like he's got like an exactly
Oh yeah.
perfect time.
Well, and I bet he's
thing.
developed verbal habits that allow you to kind of turn right when it's time to end.
Yeah.
Like those radio people that can talk right up until right before the music hits the lyric part,
Mhm.
which I always enjoy that. I'm like, wow, they know exactly. They just know.
Yeah.
But that's training. You learn how to do that. So that's what there's a Foxy Shazam song where when the song ends, the singer comes in like he's a radio host. He goes, and that was the song by Foxy Shazam, and the song just goes like bam bam bam, and he keeps getting interrupted, so he stops, and then when it goes bam, he goes, so that was a song by bam, and then he goes really, and then it ends. Like I always thought that made me laugh really hard. Listen to Henrique, everybody. He's just talking about bands he likes. But no, so yeah, that was it's just I guess the reason I'm talking about this is because it's just funny. I was just thinking about being live and thinking about like technical issues, because we would have technical issues on live shows, and it was a nightmare.
Sure.
Like especially because this was like 20 years ago, so like people would be like, oh, I don't want to use wireless microphones because what if the battery dies while we're live on the air? But now wireless microphones are extremely reliable. But that being said, watch like a professional show like Jimmy Kimmel or something. They're wearing 2.
Oh wow.
They have
Smart.
2 on, because if one dies, the other one is getting the exact same sound. You'll literally see 2 heads of the microphone.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. In fact, the clips that hold lapel microphones actually have 2 holders on them, like the standard, because a lot of people do redundancy if they're recording live. They don't want to lose it.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
I mean, I kind of hope that like 2 would mean that they're like doing it in stereo, slightly further from each other, so they'd be slightly different.
Well, there's a channel I really like on YouTube, and they have lapel microphones, and they have the special ones that are stereo, and it just annoys the shit out of me.
It's weird. That would be weird.
I'm just like, oh, good, so I can hear slightly left and slightly right of your head. Amazing.
Yeah, no, it's not really smart.
It doesn't do anything. They just wanted to charge you more money. So like if there's ever a microphone that doesn't need to be stereo, it's one that's just recording a single voice.
Yeah.
I mean, there are situations where it helps though. Like a friend of mine was doing a movie where like a criminal was supposed to be talking like into your head, like he was breaking the fourth wall and talking to you, and they actually recorded the voiceover guy with 2 microphones next to each other that were extremely different style microphones.
Okay.
And then they put one on the left and one on the right, so it just gave a bigger body to his voice, because you can't really like immediately tell, but there's just, you know, a difference, a sonic quality difference in each ear.
Yeah.
And I think that's kind of neat, but again, that's just theoretical playing around. There's no actual evidence that it works to do anything. It's just, but it's cool. It's an interesting thing to do, you know, to be like, I wonder what happened if it's kind of like when you want to make guitars sound fatter in a music mix. So you give them different guitar effects on each channel, even though they may only be slightly different. It's just different enough that it sounds big.
Well,
you know?
yeah, I mean the same thing with vocals. If you record like more than one take of the same vocals and then you smush them together, so it sounds better.
Often,
yeah.
So yeah, I mean it's basically the same concept. So, but yeah, fucking stereo lapel microphone. Anyway,
I wish I thought of that though. That would have been cool.
The problem is not just that they bought them and are using them. It's that somebody in a fucking boardroom or something at a good microphone company was like, what if we make a stereo lapel microphone?
Yeah.
And I feel like somebody in the office would just be like, well, what would that accomplish? And he's like, someone would buy it.
Yeah, we would sell some.
But wouldn't it do nothing? Like, no, it would be stereo. And that's it. Yeah, no more argument from that guy. He doesn't want to become the meme where he gets thrown out of the window of the office building.
No.
Yeah, like it's like why would you and I be using stereo microphones right now? Like what would it accomplish?
Well, actually not stereo microphones right now, but if one of us was using just a left channel and the other one was using just a right channel in people's headphones, it would sound really interesting. Because it'd be like one of us was on one side and the other was on the other side.
It would be disorienting.
No, it would be fun.
I can do that if you want. I can make that the way the show sounds.
I don't know if that would be helpful for anyone. But it's sorry.
No, what?
I was gonna say, but it's kind of like when you have, I mean, stereo just recordings in general, like it when you listen to music live, that's not what music sounds like. You're not in between all of the things and like standing and having like someone scream at you in the front of you and then like a guitar over here on your whatever side this is, right? Like so everything is just kind of like fictionalized and you know, so I might as well just have you kind of on one side and me on the other side. That could just be the standard from now on. We could invent something. This could be it.
Unfortunately, that's what they did on the Beavis and Butthead album. They had Beavis on one side and the Butthead on the other so that you could be like sitting between them while they were like talking shit.
Oh.
I'm sorry. That's what I was going to try and warn you about was the Beavis and Butthead did it. I remember because I got that album for a penny from Columbia House and then we never paid. And then my mother just yelled at them on the phone until they canceled the account because her children signed up for it. We were told we'd pay pennies. And then they were like, we need actual money. And I was like, Mom, you know, and that was the end of that. So
yeah, well, I mean, you were going to pay pennies. Like it's just part of the currency. So,
well, now knowing what I know now, I wouldn't have even paid pennies. I would have just done it and said I was going to pay pennies. It's a good scam.
Stealing from people.
Nothing beats scamming a scam. Okay. Columbia House was not a good up and up business.
No, not really.
No, if you want to defend it, go ahead. The floor is yours.
No, I don't really.
And while you're at defend sweatshops too, go ahead.
They make stuff. Both of them make stuff. I don't know. That's all I got.
I can't believe you didn't become a lawyer like everybody wanted you to.
They wanted me to become a judge, not a lawyer.
Whoa. Is that a real thing?
I several people who like kind of knew me when I was growing up were like, yeah, Michelle should be a judge. She'd be really fair.
Who looks at a child and just goes, that's a judge?
It was really weird. Like I'm not normal.
Like you just take this little kid and you're like bouncing her on your leg and you're like, you know what? Supreme Justice of the Chief Justice of the Supreme Court. That's this kid. And then like one kid is like trying to put a fork in an outlet and it's like president. So why didn't you become a judge, huh?
Because I don't think it's fair enough.
To be a judge?
Yeah.
You mean because they
I
don't
don't
pay you enough?
Yeah. I wanted more money. I was like, let me just work in retail because that's more money than being a judge.
Well, I think to be a judge, you have to be a lawyer first, don't you?
That's
I'm pretty sure you have to be a lawyer first.
I think so.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
you just didn't want to go to law school? It just didn't sound fun?
Yeah, I don't really think I'd be a very good lawyer. Like not in the part of like I don't think I would be convincing and stuff. Like maybe I could do kind of some of the legwork things, but in like an actual courtroom, I don't think I'd be a very good lawyer.
You think you just walk in and be like, ladies and gentlemen of the jury, whatever you got to do is fine. Okay.
I don't want to tell you what to do. Do whatever.
I don't want to be judgy or bossy.
Yeah.
So
My client probably didn't do this, but we don't know for sure. So
I mean, does anybody even know anything? Is it possible?
yeah, I mean
The judge would be like, let the record show Ms. Adler shrugged her shoulders 8 times. See, I want to see you be like you should be a show business judge. Like Judge Judy or like the People's Court judge, where it's just like things that aren't even really legal disputes where nobody wants to pay for it, but they do want to be on television. Be like, today we have Steven. Steven says his ex-girlfriend stole $5,000 in baseball cards from his apartment and then moved in with his brother. This is Tina. Tina says Steven is full of lies and that he might have killed someone in Chicago in 1945. She's countersuing him for $7,000 in damages and reopening the criminal case against him. This is Judge Adler. I think I would watch that. I would DVR that and watch it every night.
well, thanks, but no one's gonna give me a show about me being a judge.
I can. Do you want next week's show to be you as a judge? I can get defendants. I guarantee you 2 people beefing in like a Facebook thread would be like, okay, we'll let your friend be our judge.
I'll do it.
I can't even think of a good example of like two stupid people arguing on Facebook.
There's so many of them though.
Oh my God. So what would you wear, just a traditional black robe, or would you want like a purple one or something?
I don't really like purple.
So. I that was just a random color I picked. What color would you go? Burgundy?
Yeah, maybe. That sounds good.
I just picked the color of your door.
Okay.
That's literally where I got it. I was like, well, she must like burgundy somewhat because her door is that color.
Sure. Oh, I was thinking about orange and how brown might be orange.
Mm-hmm.
But then I was thinking, how do we know that orange isn't brown?
I had that thought the other day. That's just a chicken or the egg challenge right there.
But I'm like excited if orange is brown.
So you think it's just light brown?
Yeah.
I think it comes from the fact that like orange only becomes brown when it gets darker, but brown becomes orange as it gets lighter. Like there's light brown, but then there's very light brown becomes orange. So orange is just a bigger spectrum than brown. Brown exists on the orange spectrum. Does that make sense?
I guess, but
I mean, can't accept this is the real problem.
I mean, I just feel the same way about red. You get like lightish red and then you get pink.
I think there's more to pink than just being a lightish red.
But pink is red.
True.
Because I could say I think there's more to orange than just being a lightish brown, or there's more to brown than being a dark orange. But
I mean, if you go into Photoshop and open up a brown, it's just orange.
No, it's brown, and then you make it lighter, and then it's light brown or orange.
Guys, I don't know if there'll be a 70-second episode because Michelle and I can't handle this whole. She won't accept that there is no brown, that brown is just dark orange.
That it just can't be true. And I still never like went and like tried and sorry to like show you.
She's
and
so
stuff.
mad she just hit her microphone out of rage. Maybe you should do some experiments and report back.
Okay.
It'd be important.
No one cares.
The main reason that it was even brought up that there's no brown is because you can't make a brown light. You can only make an orange light.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
What about like beigey things that
Beige,
are like
beige is not brown.
But kind of. And also there's light brown on my walls right now.
Yeah, but it's not. No, I mean light as in like you can't shine a light that is light brown. You can't create a light. Sorry, that's what I meant. You can't. It'll just be orange.
Yeah, but light is different than pigment. I'm sorry. That doesn't mean that.
She's so mad. She just hits her microphone to make her points.
Okay, I don't know.
I'm not saying that brown is bad just because brown is orange. I don't understand why this bothers you so deeply.
Because it's a different color.
Is it though?
I don't know. But I have to prove that it is. Otherwise, I might as well not be alive anymore. So
I mean, I think that this is a little extreme, but I'm not going to tell you how to live your life. Maybe you and I need to go on the people's court. And the defendant, Mr. Kauto, says that brown does not exist and it is simply a darker version of orange. The plaintiff, Michelle Adler, says he's lying and that's it. And she's suing for him to say she's right. That's it.
yeah.
Okay. So you're a lawyer and you're defending the idea that brown is indeed not just light orange. Go ahead and give your opening statement.
I need to prepare that. You don't just give an opening statement without preparing.
All right, I'll start as the defense. Your Honor, people of the jury, attractive people of the jury, I am but a simple man. Grew up in Ohio, adjacent to a coal mining town. I'm not a flashy East Coast lawyer like the plaintiffs happen to have access to, but I can tell you one thing I know for sure, and that is, well, dirt is brown, and there's a lot, unlike the heathen East Coast, in the heart of this country, there's lots of dirt, which is brown, which is a dark orange. Pardon me. Sorry. Okay, fine. See, I could do it.
I don't know. I don't know that you're helping your case at all.
Your Honor, I show you Exhibit A. It is a photograph of Ms. Michelle Adler eating lunch with Adolf Hitler. Notice there is no brown in this photo, but a dark orange. I think it's going where you don't expect it. It's a dark orange. Your Honor, allow me to show you the desktop of my MacBook Pro. Please ignore the Doge on the front of it. So here is brown. Now look as I adjust the Luma. Now it's fucking orange. Isn't that insane? Go ahead. You cross-examine my witness Adobe.
Random program on a computer that doesn't exactly
Your Honor,
give
I
you
object.
perfect results.
I object to calling Adobe, one of the most esteemed companies in software, a random program. I think that that's an attempt to discredit my witness.
There's literally not a judge.
I'm the judge. I side with Ms. Adler. God damn it!